We are back with another podcast, this time featuring Cam Williams. We talk about Australian tennis, the Battle of the Brits, the upcoming US Open, and everything tennis. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy the video. What we want to ask Cam Williams, the man on YouTube, is how did you get into this? Like, what was your inspiration to start a YouTube channel and sort of, you've obviously loved tennis, you like watching it and stuff, but what made you sort of like report on tennis?
I kind of had the idea in about 2017. I've got the app on my phone. I'm looking at scores every day, and I'm thinking nobody's really doing a week-to-week, breakdown of all the matches and that sort of thing. I've been playing tennis since I was 10. Lived in the UK, went to Wimbledon. I've been to the Australian Open as many times as I can remember, and I just thought, well, why not? Let's just give it a crack. And, started watching Shanghai 2018, doing the first videos on my channel. It's not great, but it's worth having a look. And, just kind of sitting there watching some matches. I thought, well, I'm watching them anyway, so someone else must be watching them as well and want to have a chat. And here we are now.
Well, it's worked out perfectly for you. It seems to be a big success. We've got Tennis Talk with Cam Williams. It's doing up numbers. You're getting 10K subscribers now. We often watch your videos. We always find it quite interesting to keep up with the news because you're always on the point. News will break, and then Cam Williams is going to be there with the story. So definitely brilliant what you're doing. Keep up the good work.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. What made you? Obviously, you were just saying about you do these live watch-alongs, and do you think this was just come from you're a very passionate guy? We're watching you on your channel, and you really get into the points, and you really give a really good running commentary of all the matches and stuff. And I've noticed you have thousands of people interacting with you on there. What was that like when you've started interacting with this many people during matches?
Yeah, it was the first. Well, I first kind of got into. No one was doing it in the tennis space. There's people doing it in the football, basketball, and I watch a lot of them. True Geordie's someone I watch, the guy from the UK, if you don't know.
Really good.
And he does his kind of watch-alongs as well for the football and for UFC, stuff like that. And I thought, well, no one's doing it for tennis, and I'm watching the tennis anyway. So it started that way, and then it's kind of just evolved. I had, I think, 5 people maybe in the first chat. And it's kind of going back and forth, and then now it's I have to turn the chat off because it gets a little daunting if there's 100 people watching. You're just kind of okay, you got to make sure you're calling the points right, otherwise
it's weird because you're on your own, but you're not. You're just there on your own, but you're not.
Yeah, well, if I had to do this in front of 1,000 people, like sometimes we get on the channel, I don't think I'd be the same. I think it'd be a little bit more shocking, but being in front of a camera, it feels like I'm just by myself talking, and then the chat's moving up and down, and it kind of and it's more for the people that don't have access to the match, or some people that do, and they want to have a chat because nobody in their family or nobody out of their friends is a tennis fan, and
exactly. That's what I was going to say.
It's a bit like me personally. I don't have a lot of my friends are really into tennis, so it's for me, this is a really good escapism to sort of come on the channel, talk to people, like-minded people who like tennis. And bringing back to the point you just made, if I was to be on a stage doing it in front of, say, 1,000 people who watch our videos, I think I would crumble. I'd walk off. So it's brilliant that we're able to use media now to sort of get our message across without all the pressures of really feeling like you're doing it for other people.
Well, that's it. And I think we're starting to see, I watch Tennis Channel, obviously as one of the best news sources to get stuff from. And now that we're all kind of inside, it's we've channels like ours have already done, the hard work of, starting up, Zoom calls and stuff like that, whereas they're all starting to learn all those big, TV networks. So it's, we're sort of using the new media the way, our generation know how to use it too.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to just sort of ask a bit of a weird one. I know that obviously you've got all these thousands of people that are obviously chatting throughout matches. Yeah. Are there many trolls on there? Are you getting a lot of stick from people?
Yeah, we not so much now. You kind of learn like the first few, well, probably for the first 6 months, you get people coming in, they ask, where's the match? And sometimes they add some words in there, but you kind of, you block out those words. It's sort of like if you get comments on a video, there's going to be comments that slip through the cracks and people. Now it's sort of, I've built this, community to a point where I don't need to defend the channel. People do it for me. So it's nice that, someone comes in and goes, where's the match? And 5 people go, this isn't here, it's not here. So, but at the start it was, you got to have some thick skin, especially on YouTube.
No, honestly, brilliant work. We love watching it, and I'm sure there's loads of people out there who love watching it as well. So we're going to just leave your link in the description for any guys listening to this now. Make sure you go subscribe to him. He's got brilliant content, and I'm sure you're going to be entertained. But what we actually want to talk about is something else, really, with you, and it is Australian tennis. I think it's a topic we could probably have a whole podcast on. There's so much to talk about with that. There's so many players coming up. And it's just an exciting time, really, for Australian tennis. What's your views on all this?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up through Leighton Hewitt. So we had him for we had Philippoussis, but he was on and off from the 2000s onwards, basically. And then we just had Hewitt. We had Bernard Tomic.
Controversial.
He showed up, he played a couple of good tournaments. And then now we've got, it seems like a lot of, and obviously on the women's as well, we've got the best player in the world. So
exactly.
It's nice. It's nice to have Kyrgios. Well, you got Minaur at the front, Kyrgios as the talent, and then you got just basically a bunch of hard workers behind. Millman, Thompson, Kokonakis when he's healthy. Those kind of guys,
Duckworth,
workhorses.
Another great player. James Duckworth, another great player.
Yep. Matt Ebden when he's when he's getting matches together. And then the women's, you got Ash at the top. So it's nice to actually have the Australian Open be okay. We've got some players that actually can go into the 4th round and maybe even win the whole thing, like Ash almost did this year. But it was. I remember for a few years there, it was Leighton or nobody. I mean, Sam Stosur, she won along the way, but it's nice to actually have 3 or 4 players to look forward to after the first round, rather than it just being one player through and hopefully, because there's a lot of pressure on Aussies, obviously. We host a slam, so we expect a lot from our sportsmen and women, and, tennis is no different.
We feel the same way. Well, we obviously have the same pressure that we put on all of our players. We had Andy Murray probably had the biggest pressure out of anybody. Everyone was expecting that Grand Slam from him at some point.
To be honest, there wasn't really anyone else. No, all our ties kind of pinned on him. Because there's a few others around.
We had Hemman before, and he was only a semi-finalist. Like Gruzetsky, I think he got to one final in the US. But that was it.
I think Rafter might have beaten him, actually.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what I mean. Like, we haven't really had anybody else to hang. And now Murray's obviously been injured for a while. Our best hope at the moment is probably Dan Evans or Kyle Edmund. Kyle Edmund, yeah,
they're both really good players.
On the women too. I mean, I think she's
Conter, she's
an Aussie though, isn't she?
I know, this is what I mean, but we have these players. Obviously, Cam Norrie, he's New Zealand as well. We're sort of trying to drag players in because we don't have any homegrown talent. But
we had Bedeni, didn't we? Bedeni was British for a bit, and then he switched. But anyway, so it's not really, I don't know, but on Australian tennis, these are Australians to the bone. They're brilliant players as well. Like, for me, you mentioned the first name was Alex de Minaur, and he's someone who we are extremely excited by. We love watching him. He's an incredible talent. Amazing. Like, winding back now to the beginning of the year in the ATP Cup, like the game he had against, I think it was Rafa Nadal, was just incredible match. I think he lost the game, but it was just such a good match. Like, it's just all a blur now to believe that we had tennis in 2020. Like, it seems like ages ago.
That match. And I got to be honest, I watched him the year before. He played Rafa at the Open, I think, last year, and got demolished. He just didn't have weapons, wasn't strong enough. He's a Leighton Hewitt type. He's got the build. He's the shorter player on tour at around 6 foot, which is crazy to say now. But skinny, doesn't have many weapons, just gets everything back. And watching him against Rafa was the first time around. Just there's nothing he could do. So I kind of didn't give him much hope because it's a year on. He hasn't really bulked up. He doesn't have a weapon. But to push Rafa, I think, into a third, was ridiculous. And I think also last year at the US Open, he played really well as well, beating Nishikori, lost to Dimitrov. But I mean, he is the archetype Australian, if you go through the list, Hewitt being the last one, Rafter, those kind of guys, even Pat Cash back in the 80s, the Aussie battler. And he fits that mold because he's always the underdog. He's not the tallest guy on tour. He's not the strongest guy, but he can win some matches, which is some matches you don't think he will win.
I think the way he progressed through 2019 was just remarkable, really, because me and Ben, we was at Wimbledon back in July, is it? And we was behind the match where he was playing against Steve Johnson. He lost that match in 5 sets, but it was quite close, and he was there, but there was a bit missing from his game, and it just seemed from then onwards he sort of picked his game up, and we just saw another Alex de Minaur, like another level to him. He then obviously competed in the next gen tournament.
I thought
was incredible in that.
That ATP Cup, though, I just thought it just seemed like suddenly he had gained this confidence for going for a lot more stuff, and that was evident in that tournament. He just was literally hitting people off the court, which I hadn't seen him doing before this year. And that I think
it helps when you got Kyrgios there being a hype man for you.
Yeah. And when Kyrgios is in a team, that's when he plays his best. So you're going to get a supporting role. I mean, Davis Cup was the same end of last year. The Aussies did better than expected. I think Leighton is the coach as well. That makes a massive difference. But I mean, de Minaur, massive, really impressive. He was injured through the clay season, which is kind of where you'd expect him to thrive. But came out, I think, won Atlanta, did well at the US Open, finished the year strong. He's definitely one to watch. It'll be interesting to see how much he can push that potential and that kind of limited game style. He doesn't really have the weapons, but if he goes for it like he was at the ATP Cup and he continues that aggressive match play, he should be able to roll some heads. And it'll be interesting against those other next gen guys, Tsitsipas, Zverev, the guys who have already kind of made it up to that top 10
as well.
And Sinner as well. Yeah, Sinner's one that people on my channel keep on raving about. Obviously won the whole next gen tournament.
Yeah, crazily good. 18.
He's 18. Yeah, I love it when my favorite matchup is de Minaur Shapovalov, because I love Shapo. I think Shapo is awesome, and when they play, it always seems to be a 3-setter, and I just can't wait to see them play in a major. They'll play in a major quarterfinal, semi-final in the next 10 years easily.
Oh, for sure.
I'm a big fan of him as well. To be fair, me and Ben, what was it in the Australian Open? We had to pick our main pick who we think is going to win, and an outsider tip. And for me, he was my outsider. He's the guy I thought had a chance of potentially winning. I just think he's incredible. He went out first round, so it just proves how much I know. But
I was disappointed as well because he played so well at the ATP Cup. He pushed Djokovic. He was doing so well for Canada, and then he just kind of disappeared. And it was a shame.
He has those such huge weapons that if the serve isn't firing or the backhand's not firing, then you sort of get a little bit exposed, I think. But I think once he's still so young anyway. It's just crazy that we think of him in this such high regard already. And he's 20 or something like that. And so think of if he improves all the rest of his game, and if he's got a better defensive game in the future, I think he's definitely one to watch.
It's his backhand, isn't it? Which is so remarkable, and his flair.
And it's lefty. I think the left-handed, because it just looks so
good,
different. One-handed, left-handed. I mean, Lopez is the only guy I can think of off the top of my head that has that. But it's even better than that. It's just kind of this, when he does the jumping one-handed backhand, I've tried that. I can't do that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I saw a story. I can't remember exactly what was happening, but his coach was saying something about this jumping backhand he does. It's a very unique shot. And he was like, I don't want to take this out of your game. I think this is unique to you. You should keep going for it. And mate, it's working for him, so keep going. Yeah. And it's brilliant for the spectators. We were all talking about player promotion and stuff like that. What's better than showing that how unique you are on the court and what you're able to do better than that? That's amazing. I think it's a really good asset to have for sure.
Yeah.
I think this is something which similar, but not exactly the same. Kyrgios, obviously, he has all of his trick shots that he often does I don't know if it's a fake shot. He'll go for one of those jump and just do a little drop shots and stuff like that. That's why I love watching him. You just never know what shot's coming. And I love the fact he incorporates slice forehands. Not enough players use this for my liking. I'm a big proponent of this when I play tennis. I like to mix up the shots as much as possible, and slice I don't think gets used enough.
Yeah, Well, yeah. I mean, I just think that with Kyrgios, he's so polarizing. I mean, Australians, because we got Minaur, a lot of people are going, well, Kyrgios isn't Minaur, and Kyrgios is too wild. He's not representing the country properly. All that kind of thing. I completely disagree. I love Kyrgios. I think he's awesome. Great for the game. He's entertaining. He packs stadiums out. I mean, when he played Washington last year, he went on, won the whole thing. I mean, packed every night. I think he was on the night matches every single night, and he wasn't even in the top 10. I mean, that's I don't think the ATP are using him properly. I think they're condemning him because he's a bad boy. But he's just got every shot in the book. Maybe not the kind of guy that you want to, as a coach, you want to tell people, your students to play like, because he's so unpredictable. But he's so good for the game, and I just don't think they're using him properly.
Yeah, I agree totally.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Someone with that much ability, isn't it? Like just every other player, I think, on tour would probably agree that he is the one that could challenge the top three if he was like as dedicated as them. Like, no doubt.
He's never lost to Djokovic. He's undefeated.
Yeah, exactly. That's the big stat.
Him and Rafa. That's one of the. Well, yeah,
takes a set off Rafa always.
Yep.
It's like crazy.
And that's one of the best. That's one of the best rivalries. Like, because of the spice. I think Wimbledon last year. It was a big build up because there was that Acapulco last year where they had that that little bit of a disagreement. And then Wimbledon was just, I don't know what I'm assuming.
I think when he slammed it into him at the net, that was just that finished it off.
Yep. I'm a Rafa fan. I like Rafa, but I just love seeing someone ruffle the feathers and not really give the respect to the Djokovic's and the Nadals. Everyone seems to play those guys, in awe of them. Kyrgios just throws out the window. He doesn't care. He goes, I don't care who you are. I'm going to win, and I'm going to, do everything I can. He played a little bit safe against Rafa, I think, at the Australian Open. He kind of was, I was watching that, and he was playing sort of a defensive kind of like top spinny game, and I don't know why he didn't go for his shots, but almost won anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Kyrgios against the GOATs, it's it's always fun to watch.
Yeah,
for sure. But talking about the slams, obviously we've got the US Open now coming up next. That's the big one. There's a lot of problem. Like you was talking now, like I don't know if it was off air. You was talking about how toilet rolls now in Australia, people can't get them. There's fears now of a second wave. We're going through a bit of a tricky time. Like, it's a bit of uncertainty. We obviously had all the stuff with the Adria Tour as well, players testing positive. It's sort of put the whole US Open under a bit of a cloud. And we're not sure. We always talk about, we're not sure. Do you even think the US Open is going to still go ahead?
I think it will. I think, the Adria Tour, I mean, you guys covered it as as quickly as I did. We were all on it really, really quickly. I think every other channel was as well. Such a massive thing. The best player in our sport, contracting it. It's not, it's not great it's not a great look.
No.
But I think because the Adria Tour was so far from what's, every other tournament are doing. I mean, you have, you've got the UTS going on in France, the Ultimate Tennis Showdown. They're doing everything by the book. You've got tournaments starting up in America. I think there's one starting in Berlin in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And I think because the Adria Tour
Battle of the Brits.
Battle of the Brits on right now. And that's it. Andy played really well against Edmund, by the way. That was a good match. But yeah, I think because the Adria Tour was there was no restrictions. I mean, you've got the full crowds, everyone's hugging and kissing and high-fiving and no surprise, everyone got sick. So I think if a tournament like the Battle of the Brits and something happened there, I think that would make a little bit more sense that the US Open would be in jeopardy, because the US Open they're going to do everything they can to avoid people, even walking past each other. So I don't think it's in jeopardy yet. I think if one of these tournaments one of the tournaments that actually gets played correctly with all the restrictions, if something happens at one of those, then we can say US Open's under a cloud. But I think right now, I mean, the Adria Tour was a one-off in terms of, ignoring the rules of the world, which, I got a lot of flack for that on my videos before all this went down. It's saying that, Serbia was in a better place than other countries, but I think
this virus is not discriminated at all. It's just, it's an invisible thing that's flying around. We don't know. It's just, it seems to be going everywhere.
Well, yeah,
over the world.
the PM of the UK got it before. You know, he got it before everybody, and he was kind of, you know, he started. I remember watching a little bit of him starting off, you know, saying, "Oh, I'm going to hug and kiss everybody as normal," and then, you know, look what happened, and now everyone's kind of taken a step back and gone, "All right, let's not do that."
He was joking around saying, "I'm going to go to the COVID wards and shake everyone's hand."
So ridiculous. It's and it's kind of like what the Adria Tour did as well. They went, "Oh, we're not afraid of this," and then now
it takes one.
Best players. Yeah,
just takes
so
one.
I'm assuming that now rules Djokovic out of the US Open, right?
I'm not sure what the go is with that, because I know that the players like Vekic, Team, all those kind of players, Choric, who actually got it as well, they all, you know, they have like a 14-day period. So I'm not sure if after 14 days, if Djokovic is all good, he can do whatever he wants again. But I mean, yeah, I
Yeah, someone in our comments was saying that they actually had the virus, and then 2 months later, it took 2 months for it to get out of their system. So if that was the case, then it would take us pretty much slap bang right before when the tournament starts.
I don't know anybody who has been sick and got it, so I don't know what the process of any recovery is. But like, you know, doesn't matter if you don't have symptoms. Djokovic proved that, you know. So
yeah. I think tying all the stuff we've just spoke about, really, a brilliant sort of question to ask you would be: we can obviously see the Australian tennis is on the up. We've got the US Open coming up. Two of the big three, well, one of the big three is definitely not there.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a good chance for one of them maybe to sneak it and win a Grand Slam?
Yeah, well, the thing with the Aussies is that we live so far away that I know Kyrgios has had his questions. I think Barty's on the fence because if you have to go over there, you'd have to leave 2 weeks before to self-isolate. So it's going to be tough. You know, I'm sure the players below the top 50, they're going to have to do it out of, you know, necessity. It's their job. I know Dylan Alcott during the week, I don't know if you guys have heard it, but he was advocating to get the wheelchair tennis back, and I think it has just come back.
Yeah, it has come.
Yeah. So he obviously, you know, is going to go play. He's the best wheelchair player at the moment and has been for the last few years. So he's going over, I guess. But I'm not sure. Kyrgios is up in the air about it. De Minaur, I'm not sure. He's playing some clay court events he was playing one in Spain a few weeks ago. So he seems like he's kind of focusing more on the European side of things, being the clay season that's going to happen for after the US Open. But yeah, I mean, I personally think if, you know, Federer's not going to be there, Djokovic, well, we don't know now. Nadal's always kind of all been like, I'm just going to, you know, ride a jet ski over in my, you know, on my island, and then I'll figure it out. But I mean, it's a great opportunity, not just for the Aussies, but for anybody really. I mean, you take the big three out of a slam and you go, well, who's going to get there? Is it going to be Medvedev? Tsitsipas, will he step up? Will teams, you know, do what I think most people think he will do eventually? Zverev, I mean, the Australian Open, he got to the semi-finals. I didn't expect that after his Laver Cup performance. So it could be anybody, or it could be somebody outside the top 20, and we get some random champion because there's, you know, it opens the gates for all the players that, you know, the top three don't have to play. Well, obviously Federer's not playing, but top three don't have to play. They don't have to prove anything. But others, they could make something.
This is one Monfils winner or something like that.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that I'm actually was really excited about, because this could be our first look into life after the big three. This could now set the precedent, and it could give somebody else the confidence to go on and win more if they were to win this one. You just don't know. This could be like, you could see a semi-final of maybe like a Zverev, Shapo, De Minaur, like people like this in the semi-finals. And then you'll be thinking like, one of these is going to get it now. And we're going to start a new era of tennis. So it could be really, really exciting. And I'm looking forward to life after them as well. I thought this could be a good insight into it.
Yeah, I can't wait. I wasn't supporting team in the final because obviously I'm trying to be unbiased, but I want a new champion. I've basically grown up with the big three. You know, it's been they've been around, and probably for most young fans, you know, that's all we know. We all know that these three guys win everything, and we've had Stan win a couple, Andy's won a couple. You know, you got Cilic and then Del Potro all the way back, you know, in 2009.
Yeah.
Besides that, it's just been these big three. So I just want a new champion, and then like you said, you know, it might give someone, even if they do get an easier road because you don't have to play one of the best players of all time to win it. You can you just have the confidence of going, oh well, I'm now a Grand Slam champion like you, so I can beat you again. On the biggest stage, I can beat you. So we'll have to wait and see though, because for some reason when these tournaments open up, the best players seem to fall away, especially when the big three, lose early on in tournaments, which is very rare. But when it does happen, the players seem to just fall off because they know this is our chance, and they all just kind of freak out a little bit.
It becomes a lot more nervous for sure.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But I think it's going to be really interesting to know what happens because the US Open and French Open now are in such close proximity. Are people going to be like picking one or the other? Are you able to play in both? Like if you get to the final of the US Open, you're not got that long until you all of a sudden then going on clay and playing a French Open. It just seems bizarre.
Yeah, well,
and Rafa Nadal, as we know, he's defending points. He's won both.
I mean, he's got something like 5,000 points to defend over the 7 weeks. I mean, he got stuffed with all those. I think, and I'm going to probably do a video on this. I think Rafa's going to make the choice of the clay. I think he'll throw the US Open in if he has to. If it doesn't get any better, if the situation doesn't get better. Djokovic, I mean, is a massive question mark. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, Thiem seems to be the guy who's going to play both. He's the only one because he's played. Yeah. He went from he was playing tournament in Austria, going clay court event. Then he went over to Adria Tour, won that one. Then he played between the UTS and the Adria Tour. He went back to Austria, played a couple of matches. He's gone over to the hard courts now, so he's obviously going to play everything.
Yeah.
I mean, Tsitsipas, he's young, so he'll probably do both. Zverev, I'm not sure what he's going to do. You'd think that he'd probably do the US Open and...
Didn't look in very good form when he came back, though, did he?
Yeah, I mean, those double faults were not great. And then Medvedev, where's he at the moment? I don't know where he is.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got a ridiculous amount of ability. He's more than capable of playing the US Open, winning it, and then coming to the French and doing well as well. So we'll see what happens. It's really interesting times, to be fair. There's a lot to cover in tennis. We're in unprecedented times, and it's just...
Yeah. Andy Murray might make a comeback, mate. You might see Andy Murray at US Open, mate.
He might. I mean, he could sneak through. He's got the experience. I mean, I would back him if he was playing against a Tsitsipas in the fourth round. If Andy's healthy, he's got the experience. He knows how to do it.
I need to see more than what we did against Edmund though the other day, because the first set it was good. It was like he was sort of back on court, but then you see that obviously the fitness probably isn't quite there yet, and Edmund sort of powered him off the court in the tie break a little bit. Bit sad to see, but I think good signs. Hopefully he can just play a few more matches over the next couple of months and we might see a wild card in there and US Open. That would,
but no fans. I mean, how's that going to affect people?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a brilliant point you make about the no fans. I'm not really in favour of these tournaments going ahead without fans. Like, me and him, we have a lot of differences of opinions on it, and he sort of wants it to go ahead regardless. Everyone's in the same boat. But for me, it's just like, these slams are always going to be like an asterisk sort of grand slam that I don't feel like they're ever going to be compared to all the other slams in history, because it's under these different situations and circumstances. And winning a big point, you go through to a final, or there's no crowd, there's no noise. It just seems like it's just sad. It's very sad to see. And I understand that we need to do it to sort of get the sport moving again. We need money to be pumped back in. These players' livelihoods, they rely on it. However, like there's a lot of pros and cons. I can understand people's like both sides of the argument, really.
Yeah. I mean, there's sports in Australia that are happening, just restarting them. They've got the press the crowd button, so it feels like the stadium's full. But you're celebrating with teammates, so it is different when you're playing an individual sport. I mean, UFC, I've been watching that the last couple of weeks. But you've got your corner right next to you, so if you win the fight, your corner jump the fence. So there's no, with tennis, you win the match, you basically got to wait, 20 minutes before you can go back to the locker room and you can see your friends and family. So it's going to be weird. I mean, the UTS are probably doing it the way that maybe it's going to look. They're doing it with the artificial crowd. I think they've got some ambient noise going on as well. And then they've got the supporters or the coaching panel basically right next to them, within shouting distance. So I think that's probably what it will look like, but it's going to be weird. It is going to be weird.
I just think a French Open when Rafa Nadal hits a big winner up the line and there's no roar from the crowd, I just think that's going to be a sad sight to see.
Yeah, and that French crowd are crazy. I mean, the French crowd are especially if a Frenchman's playing.
Oh yeah.
If Monfils or Stonger or even Gasquet, if they're playing against Rafa and there's no crowd, it's Rafa's favour again. So the crowd is not going to be able to impact matches like they usually do. And same with the US. I mean, they're just as loud. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the locals do in front of no crowd when they're used to having a stadium.
I thought something quite interesting as well that we've obviously had in this battle of the Brits is all of the line calls are being done via Hawkeye, and they're all being obviously all the outs or all the anything faults, things like that. Do you think that we're going to see maybe if this goes ahead with like some bigger tournaments, are we going to see like less line judges? Is there going to be more computerized line calls? Technology in tennis. Is that going to come in? Would it spoil it? I don't know.
We've seen it in football with VAR.
Yeah.
Well, I think the next gen have been doing that. Their tournament's been doing that for the last couple of years. They do the automatic line calls by Hawkeye. I haven't watched it too much because it's in the Fast Four format. But I mean, I think the US Open have confirmed they're going to be using less line people, less ball kids, of course. The less people, the better. But yeah, I mean, it could be. Is it going to be the death of the linesman? I mean, technology might take over and they won't need it. This time, not just tennis, but obviously a lot of jobs may be under scrutiny because people working from home. Maybe we don't need as many people as we do for certain operations, and tennis might be that. The lines people we might only need one or two. Or the chair umpire might just be able to press buttons and have Hawkeye doing its thing. So. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
One thing I'm not sure how they're going to ever replace is ball boys or ball girls.
Robots, mate.
Yeah, the players aren't going to pick up their own.
You're not going to see them go. I don't know what's going to happen.
They just come along like a little Hoover by the net, and it will just pick them up and then just speed round and then just ping them. It'll probably fire them to the players like one of those tennis things in training. Fire it over to them.
They're going to try and catch them. That could work.
We've just done some more people out of a job now.
We've just given them an idea, shouldn't we?
Exactly. But
I think we'll leave it on that note today. We've got like 4 minutes left of this call. Thank you so much for coming on, Cam. It's been a pleasure listening to you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully we'll get to speak to you over the course of these Grand Slams and stuff and get your thoughts on a few of the matches that are going on. And if anybody watching, they want to watch along with Cam Williams, do you want to tell people what your channel is and everything? Yeah, so the channel is Tennis Talk with Cam Williams, and it's you'll probably see a bunch of the thumbnails when you write that in, and it's just basically live commentary. We're not allowed to show the matches, of course, but live commentary. We're going to be doing a lot of the exhibition matches over the next couple of months, and then fingers crossed the US Open comes back and comes on, and we'll be watching pretty much through Cincinnati all the way through to the end of the French, and then beyond, hopefully, if we go to the Asian swing. So, come have a chat with us, because I love talking to all the people in the chat. Fantastic. We definitely will. All right, then. All right. Stay safe, guys. Have a good one. You too, mate. See you, man. Bye-bye.